Hi, I could talk all day about the basics of human communication, but you would probably want to harm yourself, so I'm going to keep this video very short. Virginia Satir once said, "Communication is the human career." If you asked me what the greatest invention of humankind is, I would say language. That's the coolest thing we ever invented. A lot of people take communication for granted. It's just this thing that we do. Hey, where's the scotch tape? What's going on today? It's an amazing thing. It allows us to take those brilliant abstract thoughts that we have in our brains and it allows us to put them into a code that we can share with other people. It's a very negotiating kind of process. A lot of people think, oh, this means this and this means this, and it's just an exchange of words. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. Meanings do not reside in words. If they did, you could hear a foreign language and totally understand what people were saying. The meaning is not in the word. The meaning is in what we attach to the word. And let's face it, we don't all attach the same meanings to the same words. In fact, I don't know if we ever attach the same meanings to the same words. So it's a pretty complicated process, but it's a magic process. It's an amazing thing. And again, I think it's the human career. It's what we love doing. Now, in terms of how this thing works, what I like about your textbook, and we're going to do a quick scroll through here of the chapter, is it takes these ideas and it really puts them into a public speaking context. For example, it talks about the interactional model of public speaking. You guys probably know this as lecturing. Somebody stands up, shoots an idea out there. Hey, if you happen to catch it, great. If you don't, too bad. That sucks. Sucks to be you. But I've done my job. Some people call this model the injection model of communication. I am just shooting a message at you, totally on you if you catch it or not. That is not human communication in my definition. That is a very one way, very speaker centered model that, quite frankly, doesn't work for anybody. We can expand that a little bit and get into the interaction model, but then all we're doing is kind of the same thing, only back and forth. I do that to you 4-5, you do that to me 4-5. Kind of a little communication cha-cha we get going on there. But again, it's just injection going one way, then injection going the other way, and not a whole lot of room for meaning and understanding and negotiation and shared meaning and that sort of thing. When we get into the transactional model, and I don't think this graphic does a great job of explaining this, but when we get into the transactional model, that's when we get into this idea that we're speaking and listening at the same time. The whole time you're listening, you're also sending messages, you're sending feedback messages, and the whole time you're speaking, you're also receiving messages from your audience. That, by the way, is why we do Zoom in the online public speaking class as opposed to video recordings. Video recordings are very interactional, very injectional types of models or types of communication. Here's a speaker shooting a message out. They have no idea if you're getting the message or not. They have no feedback mechanism to see if you understand. There's absolutely no engagement at all other than clicking a mouse a few times. So we do not count that as true human communication, whereas the Zoom sessions, which allow us to see each other and allow us to communicate with each other, allow us to read our audience, and allows our audience to experience our messages in real time and even influence our messages. That is what we're going for in public speaking, and that's what we're going for in the online public speaking class. In terms, probably the most important thing that our textbook talks about in regards to human communication is this idea of the dialogic theory of public speaking. This is not you talking at somebody. This is you communicating with several somebodies. I'm always reminded of that cheesy meme that shows the brain and, lighting up at different levels. And uh, public speaking is kind of the totally lit up brain. You're receiving messages from your audience, you're delivering a message. It's a very dynamic kind of thing. A very good presenter never presents the same speech twice because they never have the same audience twice. And a good speaker is able to adapt to the mood and the dynamic and the needs of a particular audience. We don't expect you to get there on your first speech. I've been doing this for a long, long, long time, and it took me years to get to the point of being able to manage all of that pretty effectively. But that's the goal, this idea of communicating with an audience as opposed to talking at an audience. So I really appreciate that. So take a good amount of time. Of course, you're going to read all of chapter 1 and you have a quiz on that, but in my personal opinion, this section here on how communication works, I think it's the most important. And so I hope you take away something wonderful from this video, something wonderful from this chunk of your book, and I hope now you have a slightly better understanding of how human communication works.